The first customer that I got, you know how much I made? $1,000. And I got pregnant and I lost the children. And it's so beautiful just having your family and the man and the wife and the children. And
Imagine this, you're in your 20s, heartbroken, broke, depressed. You're working a good job, but your bank account says otherwise. You failed at business for 3 straight years, and nothing, I mean absolutely nothing, seems to be working. By all logical standards, you're supposed to quit. But Toni-Ann Williamson didn't quit. She rebuilt. She turned her rock bottom into a roadmap, wrote the book she wished existed, and created a no fluff guide for women stuck in survival mode. Today, she's helped thousands level up emotionally, financially, and physically with the same tools that pulled her out. I'm Stephen Stanberry, and this is The Business Behind the Story, where we unpack the real stories behind what people build. Tony-Ann's here to prove that your struggles don't disqualify you, they equipped you. Let's get into it. Tony-Ann, my dear friend, welcome to the show. How are you?
thank you. I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. So
That's awesome.
let's get right into it without wasting any time. We're gonna jump straight into business. No pun
Right?
intended. You started your first business at 24. What was
Yes.
that journey really like?
Well, it was tough because first and foremost, just to give you a brief history of why I started because I wanted an additional source of income. That was the main driving
Like
factor.
most of us.
Right, but then I wasn't sure how to do it or what. I just know that I was motivated by making extra money. So the decisions that I made were very focused on just making money. So I started out with training because at the time I was working as a guest services manager in a hotel where I had to do a lot of trainings. And
Yeah.
because of that, I naturally, was in that space. I had the connections, everything. So I figured it would make sense for me to do that type of business. But I soon learned that there was so much more to business, but nonetheless, I'm grateful because it has taught me a lot, and those lessons have groomed me into the person that you're seeing today. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like many of us, we say we want extra income and we just jump into
Yes.
business without doing any research. Was that the case? And
Yeah.
what kind of business was it?
Yes, that was definitely the case because I thought, bless my heart, my 24 years old heart, I thought that, once you had a skill, you don't necessarily need strategy or anything. You just need to just let persons know that, hey, I have a business, and naturally they will
Yeah.
support you. So, it was quite a journey having learned that business is really about strategy in every aspect. So you can be the most talented in the room, and someone who is less talented than you but more strategic than you will get the
Yeah.
business. So it's really about balance,
Yeah.
balance.
What kind of business was it?
Okay, so it was training. The name, should I go into the name of the the business at the time? Because
Sure.
on
Yeah.
my YouTube channel, I detail the entire journey, but nonetheless, promise that you won't laugh.
I'll try my
The-
best.
okay, so the name of the business at the time was Seguro de Calidad Services Solutions, and yes, it was actually registered at the
Yeah.
company's office of Jamaica. As I said, I have an entire video on this on my YouTube channel. Probably I can send that to you so persons here because it's quite the journey. But for now, it is. I had to eventually change the name and everything. So for
Yeah.
now, it is actually an incorporation with the company's office of Jamaica, Ping CX
Awesome.
Training Limited. So big jump, you know.
So how long did it take you to get your first customer?
It was about 3 years
Three
because
years.
guess what? I was there just posting on social media without any form of strategy. I thought that if I just sent an email to a company, naturally they would just
Yeah,
jump
man.
onto it because
Yeah.
hey, I know them and stuff. I didn't really understand what it really took to run a business and be strategic. So I I'm posting all kinds of stuff on social media, no real strategy, not getting any traction, nothing. It was just dry on my end. I decided to do a rebrand 2 years in because I was thinking probably it's just the branding of the business and whatever, and it failed even more. It was after I really got some help from a brand strategist, and this is something that I want to emphasize as well. People need to understand that it's okay to seek help from the professionals. It doesn't mean
Hmm.
that you're less competent. It just means that
Yeah.
you need an additional, professional help. So it was at that point when I started working with the brand strategist, that was when I realized that I had so many things that I was doing wrong. And I wish I had reached out to that person 3 years before, because the time and effort and money that I would have spent trying to do something, it never really worked out. So, yeah. So it took me 3 years. 3 years. And
So
guess what? The first customer that I got, you know how much I made? $1,000.
one
It was
thousand
for 1,000 Jamaican
Jamaican
dollars.
dollars or what, US
Jamaican
dollars?
Jamaican
Wow.
dollars, because it was coaching. I was just doing my thing, offering coaching services and stuff
And you're under
for
charge.
customer service. Yes, and when I remember when that woman, I remember her name. I don't know if I should call her name, but I remember her, and when she sent that $1,000. At that time, I was making way more than that with my 9 to 5. That was the most precious $1,000. I remember going to the ATM, withdrawing that $1,000, and just having. It just felt like such a relief after 3 years of getting persons to understand what I offer and stuff like that. So,
Do you
yes.
think you should have charged more?
Definitely, but then I was operating from a place of desperation because,
Yeah.
and that's another very important lesson that business owners need to be mindful of. So, if you have the proper strategy and you're communicating properly with your marketing, it's
Yeah.
inevitable that you will attract the customers, your dream customers. So, the real issue really is making sure the real work is making sure that you have at least the groundwork done in terms of understanding your customers, understanding just everything about the market that you're about to enter. So when you do that, it prevents decisions such as mine, because at that point I remember my state of mind being, I really don't want to give up on this dream of mine. I want to be
Yeah.
an entrepreneur, and I just want I just need some form of validation, confirmation from the market that this actually
This
makes
works.
sense.
Yeah.
So the immediate at that time, forgive me, bless my 24 years old heart, but immediately I thought to myself, probably if I lowered the price, persons would be more receptive to what I was offering. And even when I lowered my price, persons still were not receptive. As I told you, it took me 3 years to get the first customer, even with low prices. So, I'm just glad that I went through and I learned all the things that I learned. You know,
So on paper, you said you had a good job, a
I
well-paying
did.
job,
I did.
but you felt broke, depressed, and lost. Tell me why.
Yes. All right. So, so the thing, there is this peace that you can only experience. Or probably I shouldn't say that because I don't want it to sound sanctimonious. But look at it this way: having a good job
Yeah.
without pursuing your purpose, it's not going to give you that peace that you think you'll have. Because I realized earlier in life that, having a good career and all these things, that's not necessarily my purpose. I i have other obligations, alignments that I in my life.
Yeah.
So I felt broke. I felt all these things because, number one, yes, I was making money, but I didn't have proper spending habits. The average young person making money, and I was living a life of performance. So I wasn't really living a life of my own purpose. So I thought that being 24 young and educated, it means automatically that I need to be a career girl. And I think that
Yeah.
was when we met, when I was in the height of pursuing corporate and being a
Corporate.
career
Yeah.
girl. But then I realized that that is just not who I am at my core. I am more, you know, stay at home with the kids type of vibe, building my business, living a simpler country life, as I'd like to put it.
Yeah,
And the moment I tapped into that, that was when everything started to align for me. My creative senses came alive, and now it felt like I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. And that led to me completely ignoring the corporate,
yeah.
trying to build this, trying to build that, and just writing and being creative and expressing myself. And I'm so glad I took that decision because I managed to publish 2 books in 1 year. Never in my life did
We'll
I
thought
think I
that.
would be able to do something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Uh, we'll touch on the book soon, but I want to
okay.
find out. I want to find out.
Yeah.
Was there a single moment where everything came crashing down, that point where everything went downhill from you? Or was it a slow build up, a slow performance, as we'd love to say?
Looking back, my younger self would have said it was a slow build up, but my wiser, more grounded self realized that everything came crashing down when I had a miscarriage. So I was carrying twins, and I was carrying twins, and I was working a very demanding job, trying to climb the corporate ladder. At the time, I was the quality manager for very large hotel and more than 1,000 rooms. And I was young, full of energy, getting it done. I was in the prime of my career, as
Yeah,
they would like to say it. My that is my performative self saying that I was at the prime of my career, by the way. And I got pregnant and I lost the children. And I realized that it was in that moment I realized that, there is so much more to life than work, because I was still going to work. I was still having to show up to meetings. I was still having to get the job done. And it's like, it's just another day at the office while I was suffering perhaps one of the most traumatic periods of my life. In fact, I remember the exact moment when I had the miscarriage. I was actually in my office with my assistant at the time, and I hope she sees this. And I just started feeling like I needed to use the bathroom. And when I
yeah.
got up, I was just bleeding like blood. I was like, okay, that's strange. So I told her I had to leave. And I was literally in the middle of working and I had to leave. And I went to the hospital and I was told that, you know, suffered a miscarriage. And that broke something inside of me. In fact, I couldn't even sleep the night and I had to wake up the other morning because I
To
had an
work.
inspection. I remember
Okay.
everything so clearly. And, I was literally crying during the inspection and nobody asked, like, well, to be fair, they asked, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "You can clearly see I'm not okay." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good," and they just continued with the inspection because that is just the nature of that type of environment. So it was in that moment I realized that if this is what I'm pursuing, this is not for me, because I am a naturally very loving person, very gentle person by nature. But my performative self at that time was just a nightmare. So tough and hard and get it done type. Yeah. So that miscarriage really broke something inside me.
What year was this, if you don't mind sharing?
That was 2023.
2023.
No, lies. 2022. That was 2022. And then I
Okay.
went through my job season in 2023. And then I bounced back in 2024, thereabouts. Yeah.
No, 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 you're
Oh,
making me feel, no, no, you're making me feel bad because, I have twins.
yes.
They were born in 2022.
Oh,
So
that's so
I
nice.
have to ask,
Yes.
how, how do you feel when you see my twins on social media or anybody else with a twin? Because,
Yes.
one child, yes, but twin,
Yeah.
twin is
Yeah.
special. So
Yes.
I don't want you to cry because I don't have any
No.
tissue to give you because we're virtual. But
Yes.
tell me,
Yeah.
how does it make you feel?
Honestly, it gives, at first, I would, especially if, because with my type of job, I'm in a lot of hotels. So it means that I see families all the time. So at first when I see them, I would usually feel sad, like, oh, I lost my children, blah blah blah. Especially when I see twins. But no, it's just a sign of hope. Especially when I see baby twins, it's a sign of hope that if I had
Yeah,
it before, I can have it again. And
definitely.
it's always God's timing, because I think at that time, although I really wanted to have those children, I don't think I would have been the best mother to them, because spiritually I was underdeveloped.
Yeah.
Financially, I needed to have better control, and I needed a foundation. Emotionally, I also needed to grow up. So I think everything is just divine timing. I don't want to sound like I'm giving an excuse or a lesson in the pain,
Yeah.
but there is a lesson in everything. And I think no, I am in a much better place, where if I should have those children, believe me, they would have perhaps the best mom. Because no, I'm not just performing as a
Mm-hmm.
person. I'm actually living my truth, and I'm living in alignment with my purpose. So I think I would be a much better mother. So long and short of it, it's just hope. I'm hopeful that, God still blesses persons with twins and
Mm-hmm.
triplets and
Yeah.
quadruplets and all these things. So,
Yeah.
I smile. I smile. And I want persons to know too that it's literally a blessing, having twins or just children in general.
Children.
It's
Yeah.
literally a blessing.
You
So
shared a
yeah.
story with me once that you were at work,
Yes.
um, and you were sitting across from a family and you started crying.
Yes.
Share that with our listeners and
Sure,
viewers.
sure. So I remember I was at work and I went to get some food, some dinner, and I don't know. I went to the restaurant. I was feeling fine. I wasn't sad or anything. I wasn't hormonal. For the girls who know, they know.
Yeah.
So I was just feeling normal, and I went to the restaurant and they placed me beside a family, man, his wife, and their two kids, and they looked so happy. I cried, and I wasn't crying because I was jealous or anything, or I was sad. I was crying because it gave me hope that, I can literally have that one day,
Yeah.
and it's so beautiful just having your family and the man and the wife and the children, and they're living and you can feel. And I was sitting from away from them, like next to them, and I could feel the love, the joy, just being there. It was just a beautiful moment. And the lady was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah," because how do I explain to her that like your family right now is making me cry, because I want to have that, and it's just so beautiful. So yeah.
Yeah. So on your social media, your YouTube specifically, you shared that you were, should I say fat or
Yeah,
well, yes,
that's the
let's
word
say
that I
fat.
used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was this before you got pregnant? After you got pregnant and you were struggling emotionally? When was this?
Yeah. All right, so it started before I got pregnant, because at that time I lacked self-discipline. I wasn't really taking care of my health. I was more focused on climbing the corporate ladder. So, working in a hotel industry where you have access to a lot of
Free
food,
food.
free food. So, we're
Free
talking
food.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks, and pick me ups, everything. I
All of
was
them, everything. Yeah.
dining at the hotel. So I ate. I ate a lot of cheesecake. I ate a lot of chicken and pork and red meat and all these things, and I wasn't exercising or anything. So I gained a lot of weight. Like my face was
I
literally,
still find it hard to believe. Like
yeah,
when I saw the photos, like I was shocked. But yeah,
yeah, that was me. So just to answer the question though, so I started from there, and then when I got pregnant, and then I had a miscarriage, I plummeted emotionally. So that at that point, I wasn't even cooking at home. I think I shared that in another video as well, where I was saying that I wasn't even cooking at home. I was just eating a lot of KFC and all of these fried stuff, and I got even bigger. And this is not to knock persons on the bigger side. But for me personally, my experience with being on the bigger side is that I lacked energy, motivation. I was tired all the times because I can't. And my job at the time was very demanding physically. A lot of walking, as I told you, it's a portfolio with over 1,000 rooms, plus restaurants, bars, all these things. So it demanded a lot physically, and I was not able to keep up with the demands of the job. And emotionally, as I told you, I was already in the trenches. So it was just a nightmare experience for me
Yeah.
personally. So yeah.
Yeah. So you tried the not the emotional, the motivational route first. Why didn't that work, and what did actually work?
All right. So for me personally, and this might differ for other persons, but
Yeah.
I'm on the practical side of things. Motivation, there's nothing wrong with it. Listening to all these motivational videos, TD Jakes and all these people, it boosts, it gives you a boost
Yeah. Adrenaline rush. Yeah.
without, right, but without proper action and action plan or proper action. Basically, you are in the same place as you were before. So I realized that I had to hold myself accountable. I had to get really, really stern and honest with myself. And it was in that moment that I actually started to see change. So it wasn't when I was binge watching motivational content all day, all
Yeah.
night. It was when I confronted myself and be honest with myself. And it really hurts because, I mean, you don't want anybody telling you that you're doing something wrong. And it's
Yeah.
really hard to get to a place where you recognize that you're doing something wrong because your brain's natural, especially after suffering something traumatic, your brain naturally puts you in victim mode per se. You're just constantly thinking about, oh, I've been through this, I deserve to do this, I deserve to do that. But really and truly, you're heading down a destructive path. So, what really worked for me was being accountable to myself and being honest with myself about where I was in life, where I want to go, and what I needed to change in order to get there. That was where the magic happened for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you remember where you were and what you were doing when
Huh?
that shift said, no man, I need to pick myself up. All this motivational talk isn't doing anything. I need to act right
Yeah.
now.
Yes, I remember. Specific, and I spoke about this in my second book. I was at a stoplight in Trelawney heading to work, and I'm at the front of the line, and I'm just sitting there at the steering, just looking through, just looking out of space. I was gone mentally. I wasn't there in that moment, and I was just there. I don't even know how long I was there, but what I can remember was a guy on the bike knocking on my window, like, what's going on? And then it's like I came back to reality,
Yeah.
and persons were like the horns were like, woo! Everybody was going crazy. It was that moment. And then I drove to work. I had a breakdown mentally, mental breakdown, as I like to call it. And I realized that what am I doing? Like, I'm literally on the way to nowhere because I'm performing being a corporate girly, meaning I'm going to work, meeting the action plans and the deadlines and so on. But I wasn't really living; I was performing. So it was in that moment I had, that feeling that I needed to do something. I had to confront myself because I was heading nowhere. I felt like I was building because I was doing stuff every day, but I wasn't really heading anywhere because I was empty. So it was in that moment
Yeah. You
specifically.
mentioned a mental breakdown, and I
Yeah.
know mental health is a taboo topic
Yes.
in
Still,
Jamaican
even in
in Jamaican
2025.
yeah in Jamaican society. So how did you balance this? A young girl struggling with all these setbacks, the mental health challenges that come with it. Did you keep it to yourself? Did you have an outlet, someone you can talk to, or someone did you get professional help? What was that like?
Wow. So that is a loaded question, and I'm going to answer as best as I can. All right. So the first thing is that I told you before I had to get honest with myself. But then I am this type of person. at that time, I didn't really experience my emotions. I intellectualized them pretty much. So when I had an emotion, or I was experiencing an emotion, let's say I was experiencing sadness, instead
Yeah.
of acknowledging that I'm feeling sad and allowing myself to feel sad, I felt like I had to do something about feeling sad, like, oh, I'm not allowed to feel sad. And because of that, that led to a lot of performative behavior. So at that time, meaning if I was feeling sad, you wouldn't know because I pretended as if all was well. And then for the persons who were in my circle at that time, to them it seems like, I was building, I was young and ambitious, making money, got my first car, got my own place, I'm just doing my thing, corporate girly, getting it done type of vibe. So how do I explain to them that, listen, most of them didn't even know I was going through a miscarriage. I experienced a miscarriage. So how do I explain to them that my life was falling apart? I feel like I wanted to, and I just don't feel fulfilled. First and foremost, the first thing that probably would have been said was, "Oh, you're ungrateful," or you're not doing this thing right," or "You need to
Yeah.
change your mindset," or something of that nature. So I didn't have the most welcoming, um, at that time, I didn't have the most welcoming persons in my circle. But eventually, as I said, when I started to get honest with myself and become more self aware, I realized that there are a lot of things that I could do within myself in order to regulate myself and just become a master of myself, lack of a better word. And once I did that, I started to, attract different types of persons. And eventually I found friends that actually helped to build me, support me, and encourage me.
Yeah.
So important to note that my performative self attracted persons who would have been better suited for someone who was actually that type of person. But as soon as I got real with myself, I actually started to attract the persons that soothe me per se. And some of those persons are still with me to this day. So
This leads into my next question.
yeah.
After all of this, you talked about setting boundaries and cutting people off. What was the hardest shift you had to make during your comeback?
The hardest shift was the loneliness that comes from cutting people off.
Yeah.
Because your self respect has to be stronger than your feelings sometimes. There are some persons that we wish would be a part of our lives. There are some persons that we really, really, really envision ourselves being with. Or, and that doesn't mean only personally, but professionally as well. But if it does nothing for your glow up or just your well being in general, you have to cut them off. That is a form of self respect. And that type of self respect only comes from self awareness, because when you are aware of who you are, you're aware of your values, your boundaries, everything. Once someone impedes on those, naturally you will feel disrespected by it. And feeling disrespected doesn't always mean that you will be angry. It just means that something feels off here and I'm not going to partake in that, so I need to get rid of them. And that leads to a lot of loneliness. There were nights when I was literally alone. There are days when I would go days without even a text message
Yeah.
or a call from anyone. And naturally it bothered me. But at the end of the day, I know that, you know, better, but as we Jamaicans say, better must come. And
Must
it
come.
did
Yeah.
came.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, best did come.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So recently, based on
Yes.
social media, I know
Yeah.
you're not afraid of shying away from revealing stuff. So
Yeah, I'm not.
recently, you showed that you became a Christian.
I did.
Is it that you grew up as a Christian and then you went out and bad, using the Jamaican terms, or stuff happened in your life that has brought you back
To
and
Christ.
closer to Christ? Yes.
Yes, first and foremost, glory to God. I am saved. And if you're watching this and you're not saved, trust me, it's so much better on this side than on that side. Let me just put that out there. I grew up in a Christian home. I grew up with praying women. My great grandma, I tell people this all the time. That woman would go to bed on her knees.
Please,
There
yeah.
were nights when she was on her knees praying like 11. And when you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, she's
Still
still
there.
on her knees praying. And her prayers were very powerful. In fact, I believe strongly that a lot of things in my life that I'm saved from, it's for her from her prayers. And she died in 2019 because she prayed. Like I grew up seeing her pray.
Yeah.
My grandmother as well is a praying woman. My aunts, they're just praying women. When I got older, I moved out to live on my own, and I, kind of abandoned that
Sorry, yeah.
praying
Hmm.
side. But then as I got older and life started to life, I went back to my roots because I realized that prayer can heal. A transformation happened because I was going through a lot of things emotionally and it felt overwhelming and I just couldn't manage it. So I did what I knew best. I cried out for help from the
Yeah.
Lord and He saved me. Like literally, when you hear a person say, God saved me, I can tell you, He saved me. And I'm so grateful. And I was convicted actually. I was watching a video on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I was going through a rough time emotionally. Again, I wasn't hormonal, but I was just going through it. I don't know. In general, I think 2025 will just have very intense spiritual warfare. For everybody has been through something.
Yeah.
I was watching the video and I don't know. In watching the video, I just felt something move inside me, and I started to cry. And I was saying to myself, "Why am I not saved? Why the God has been so faithful." Like, believe me, Stephen, I'm trying not to preach right now, but God has been faithful. There are so many instances where without God, I don't know how I would have even survived. And it was in that moment I decided I'm going to give my life to the Lord because He has been faithful. And I, I'm moving into a newer era of my life. I'm going to be 30 next year. So 24, 25-year-old Tony, looking at me now, would be like, girl, we made it to 30. So I'm going into a new era of my life. And one of the driving forces or the main driving force that I want to lead that life is through Christ. So when I was convicted, I reached out to my friend and I said, I want to get baptized. Is your pastor available? And we just organized. Everything was so smooth. It's almost
Yeah.
as if it was set by the divine. It was set by God that way. And I'm so glad I did. I'm honestly so glad I did.
Yes, I can see the excitement
Yes.
and happiness
Yes.
on
I
you.
am so happy. Yes, I
Yeah.
am.
So diving back into business, I don't know if I should call you a serial entrepreneur. I guess you'll tell me if you are. But we know
Yes.
you have the 9 to 5, the well-paying
Yes.
9 to 5 still. But but
Glory to
you're
God.
you're yes, you're not
Yes.
settled on that. You still want more
No.
out of life, and you still
Yes.
have the businesses, and you're also an author because you've launched 2 books. But
Yes.
before we get into the books, I want to tell me
Yes.
about the businesses that you currently have. And still, do you consider yourself a serial entrepreneur?
I was a serial entrepreneur, but
Okay.
for now, I am a serial author. Put it that way. So I still operate Pink Six Training Limited, and for that one, we offer training services. But for 2026, my goal is to offer training services for women in their 20s as opposed to just business training. So I'm
Yeah.
going to be revamping that soon. And I've had many businesses before. As I said, this is something that I detail on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And For now, I am, yes, I still have a 9 to 5 and I still work a 9 to 5. But I am shifting in a new era of my life where I want to focus on the gifts that I have. I'm a very good writer. I love to write. It's a great outlet for me. And I figured, why am I not pursuing that? If it's a gift from God, for me to write and inspire persons, I think that is where I should be. And I feel most alive when I write. The idea of writing a new book, publishing it, getting the marketing aspect out, it excites me literally more than even my 9 to 5. And, I know I will get to a place where eventually I will have to choose between doing my 9 to 5 for sustenance versus doing, my books and selling my books and getting my books out there. It might not be as lucrative at first, but
Yeah.
it fuels me.
So let's go into the books. What made you say I need to write a book? And we're referring to the first one. And why this book? What was happening in your life
Yeah.
that
Well,
forced you to write that book? The first
all
one, not
right.
the second one. Yeah. So
The
we'll pick the
first one,
first
all
one.
right.
Yeah.
So the first one, I have a copy here. It's called Surviving Your 20s, and it's a woman's playbook for leveling up and thriving. It was a favorite among the girlies. I know you've seen the reviews.
Yes,
The girlies
definitely.
love this book. So, what was going through my life? So, I was at a place where I was finally starting to feel like life was thriving. I started to feel, I became more self aware. I was taking, making better decisions and so on and so forth. And I realized that a lot of younger women, we would be having conversations and they would be asking me on advice on different topics. But being the analytical person I am sometimes, I realized that majority of women, they were struggling with areas of understanding themselves, financial
Yeah.
wellness, style and stuff. My friends, I know that I dress very simply, but my brain is very, I don't know, it gets really creative when it's time to get dressed and stuff like that. So my friends would, I'm going here, what you think I should wear or whatever, whatever. And I realized that over time, there are just different areas that women, especially in their 20s, are concerned with.
Yeah.
And yes, there are already a lot of resources speaking about these things, but I honestly haven't seen a book where it compiles the unique struggles of women in this phase and an actual blueprint that they can use to make a difference. So I figured, why not write one? You're creative. So that was when I decided, okay, I'm going to pursue it as a passion project. It wasn't even
Yeah.
supposed to be something I sell. But then when I gave it to my first readers, they were like, girl, this is actually good. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to advertise it. And then when I started to advertise it, I realized that persons were buying it. And in addition to buying it, they were leaving reviews. So I figured,
So
I'm probably good at this. I probably need to get it out there more. I think it was ordained, if I can be honest. This is just who I am. And the things that are in this book, they're actually principles that I myself have used to create a more purposeful and intentional life.
yeah.
So, yeah, that was
So
basically.
you call it a real guide for real girls. So
Yes.
what's one truth in the book most people don't want to hear?
All right. Habits. Let's talk about habits. So we want a purposeful, intentional life. For example, we're at the end of the year, so a lot of persons are pursuing their vision boards and so on and so forth. But not a lot of persons are considering their habits, and not a lot of persons are considering that they need an action plan in order
Yeah.
to execute these goals. So it sounds good, having your vision board, having your list of goals and all these things. Yeah, it's good. But what often happens is that number one, your mindset stays the same, your habits stay the same, and your results will stay the same. So, especially for chapter one of the book, it details the psychology of your habits. It also details how your own mind, because there are three states of mind: your conscious mind, your unconscious mind, and your conscious subconscious mind. So it basically details how these three minds work together to shape your reality, right? And from that, you understand how your habits are formed, and it basically reboots your mindset. So when you are aware of the process and how the process works, it makes changing things around your life much easier.
Yeah.
So that is that's one of the main principles in the book. And I've had a lot of women comment on how much just reading that information and being conscious of that information has impacted their entire life. And as I said, this is something that, yes, you can find it in other books, but I believe the style that I go about
Yeah.
explaining it, and to the lengths and details that I explain, plus it's very girlology. The girls who get it. So I think women find pleasure in reading. It's like talking to a girl, your girl is, and just having that conversation. So that's something that you asked for one. There are many more, but I think that's the main one.
Yeah. So let's move into the second book now. So the success of the first one inspired you to write another one. Reveal
Yes.
this one to us. I'm going to
Okay.
give you the floor to tell us about this new book.
Okay, great. So I have a author's copy because with Amazon, you can order like a test book. So this is the test book. So the actual book doesn't have this, guys. Just to be sure.
Yeah.
And the name of this one is Journey Back to Yourself, and it's a woman's guide for radical self-discovery. So self-awareness and self-mastery goes hand in hand. I think the most important thing you can learn in your 20s as a woman is self-mastery, and that only comes from self-awareness, because when you understand yourself on a deeper level, you're, number one, less easier to be manipulated. You become less performative, which means you align naturally with your purpose. And that naturally brings you more joy, more peace, and you live a
Yeah.
more intentional and purposeful, or as they would like to call it, the language that they use now is high vibrational life, right? And I think everybody's after that. And especially in a time such as this one, where a lot of women are, they're losing their spark. I see a lot of videos that say buzz term now, losing their spark. A lot of these issues stem from a lack of self-awareness. Because let me give you a perfect example. If you are self-aware, it means that you have the ability to, understand, regulate, and stuff yourself, right? Now, when a situation takes place, a lot of persons react to the situation. They don't necessarily respond. So, for example, you and your partner, because that seems to be an issue for a lot of women these days, they are going through a bad time with their partner, and they're reacting to his actions or her actions. Well, I'm speaking to women. Men are watching this, but I'm speaking directly to
And
women now.
there's a male host. So
Yes, right. But nonetheless, for women, for this example, you're reacting to his actions. So
yeah.
he does something, you're reacting, you're blowing up his phone, crashing out, getting all crazy, losing your dignity, all of these things. That is, yes, it's real emotions, and you're reacting and all that. But there is a better way that comes with self awareness, which is responding, which is more mature. And I realize that it terrifies men. That's the real tea. It terrifies them when you are calm and composed and you appear unbothered. So when you become self aware, when he does something and it triggers you, most persons, when you're self aware, you check in with yourself. Why am I feeling this way? Why is this bothering me so much? It's bothering me because it's playing on a wound that I had from childhood. Okay, so with that information, what do I do? Well, you're going to either A, not talk to him anymore, not do this, or speak about it, or whatever the case might be. But you are now responding to situations, and that puts you in a better situation than just reacting and making a lot of decisions within your life that could cause more problems. So that is the whole purpose of the book.
Yeah.
I'm teaching women to become self-aware. But what makes this unique is because it's over a 6 week period. I see a lot of books and programs and stuff, doing the same thing. But it's like within a week. You cannot know yourself in a week. Knowing yourself takes time, and it really takes a lot of meditation and unraveling. So, what I've done, the approach that I've taken is that for each week, we focus on different aspects of yourself. Because number one, we look at your identity and yourself. And I also share my personal experience of not understanding who I am as a person, my own identity. So that one is seen returning to the woman beneath the performance. A lot of us are performing. As I shared earlier, I was living a life of performance where I'm just doing what a corporate girl would do, even though I
Doing
didn't
it for
want
the
to be
content
one.
too.
Right. So now I am just living. So we ask different questions regarding, understanding your identity and yourself. And then each day you have a prompt. So you don't necessarily have to answer every single day,
Yeah.
but I recommend that you go question by question. And the beautiful thing that I don't see anybody else doing is that at the end of each question, it basically tells you what that question reveals about yourself. So, for example, one of the questions is, what is one truth about my mental state that I keep avoiding or avoid
Yeah.
acknowledging? And then at the end of that prompt, when you've written everything, it says this is a breakthrough question. It exposes your core wounds or hidden struggles. You are forced to confront the hard truth you may fear and mental habits or condition you may be minimizing. It also reveals where you need support and change. So that gives you something to think about. So it's not just about writing down
Yeah.
what you're feeling, but it helps you to connect the dots together. So by the end of the 6 week period or all the prompts, you have a better understanding or fuller picture of who you are as a woman. And if there's some aspects of yourself that you don't like, you can easily change that or work towards becoming better at them. But at the end of the day, you have the information, you have the knowledge, you have the truth, and
Yeah.
therefore you are more self-aware.
Awesome.
And a lot of these questions, sorry, just
Yeah. Go.
I'll be
Yeah.
finished. A lot of these questions are questions that even myself, I struggled with a few of them because it requires brutal honesty. You
Yeah.
have to be honest with yourself. And, once I was honest, it unlocked a whole new picture for me. Yeah.
Awesome. Now,
Yes.
knowing you probably
Yes.
have book number three in the pipelines already.
You know.
But we won't reveal too much on that. So
No.
we're wrapping up. So I'm going to ask you
Yes.
a couple of
Yeah.
final questions.
Sure.
So the first one, if you could go back to the 24-year-old version of yourself, broke, confused, unsure, what would you say to her right now?
I don't want to sound cliche, but I would say to her, it's gonna be okay. Literally. Everything that I've gone through, I realized it was just strengthening me per se. They said the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in war. Trust me. I think that was just those years were my training ground because now I am glad that I can offer wisdom and guidance to younger women, so at least they won't feel as how I felt when I was going through that period. So I think God allowed me to go through this phase because He knows that when I got older I would become the woman that a lot of women would feel comfortable expressing because I've gone through it. It's just that we don't have
Yeah.
the time to go through everything, but I've gone
Yeah.
through it. We talk about the finances, men. Oh my God, I've
We
had my
probably should
fair
have a part
share.
two.
Yeah, just to talk about that, I've
Yeah.
gone through it. So the moment somebody expresses something to me, it's like I immediately understand. I'm able to say, so are you feeling this as well? Are you doing that as well? And as I said, I would just tell her you'll be fine. Just go through it, tough it out, you'll be fine.
Awesome. Now
Yes.
you're 30
Next year.
next year, but this year, because based on when this will be aired,
Yes.
when you look 10 years into the future, what would your ideal life look like? So you'll be 40 in 10 years.
Yes.
Show me the picture of that life.
I
Tell me
love
the
that question
story.
so much.
Yeah.
I love that question so much because I think about this a lot. I'm a visionary by nature, so I'm always trying to think 5 years in advance, 10
Yeah.
years. I see myself being a wife, definitely. with children, of course.
How many?
Probably about 3 or 4. It
Okay,
depends
okay.
on the husband as well, cause we're a team. So I say four, and he better say it's four too. So I see us living a very simple life. Just us, the children. We're living in the countryside, uh, with our own little farm. Probably have a few chickens here and there. I'm selling my books, doing my thing, and just raising the children. Having a deeper, more intimate relationship with God, of course. I want to become a powerful woman in Christ. I want to be leading persons to Christ. I don't know what the Lord has in store for me,
And
but
and and
I
you
think He knows. Huh?
and you left out motivational speaker as well.
Yes, yes, that of course, I can do all things through Christ who
Yes.
strengthens me. But
Mm-hmm.
I always say to myself, I wonder if God probably look at me and say like, this girl, she just always want because like God, I want this, I want that, I want a ministry, I want to sell more books, I want to do a book about this. It's like having a child just constantly. Glory to God. But anyways, I see myself leading, persons to Christ as well. I see myself publishing more books, but hopefully I can expand my target audience. So instead of just focusing on women in their 20s, I want to focus on women in general. But I'll allow the Lord to work through me however He sees fit. And just living a wholesome life.
Yeah.
Because I know social media tells us that the ideal life is, city to city every week, designer clothes, all of that. Believe
Flights
me,
every week. Yeah.
flights every week and, doing this and doing that. And I've lived because we're friends on social media. So,
Yeah.
I have lived. And I realized that it still did not bring the joy that just imagining having, a family, a husband, my little farm with my chickens, my cats. That brings me, just the idea of that brings me more joy than the life that I've lived, traveling, doing this, doing that, all these things. So I see myself being that, just living that wholesome life with Christ in the center, of course. So,
So,
yes.
Tony-Ann, your story is powerful. It's
Thank
amazing, and I hope it
you. Thank you.
inspires all women. Well,
Yes.
we have some male viewers and listeners
Yes.
as well, but I hope your story inspires them. So I just want to say
Yes.
thank you, not just for sharing the wins, but for walking us through the messy middle, the part
Yes.
most people skip, the part that makes the story real. Because
Yes.
I'm big on stories. So your
Yes.
book definitely isn't fluff. It's another
No.
boss babe mantra. It's a
Yes.
mirror and a map. And I know someone listening right now needed that. And if this resonated with you, you can go grab her books, Surviving Your 20s and Journey Back to Yourself. It's short, it's raw, it's practical, it's real, and it might be the thing that helps you turn the page. So, Tony, this was powerful. Thank you
Thank
again
you.
for being here.